At the end of the day, I'm sorry. Like, if somebody says something you disagree with in the street and you curse them out and say, God will forgive you for this eventually, like, or something along those lines, you are in the wrong. The multiple people who assaulted, the people who assaulted them in the arena are in the wrong.
This whole controversy is trying to blur the difference between two very different things. Disagreeing with someone is one matter. Confronting them, threatening them, or allegedly assaulting them because of that disagreement is something else entirely.
Zero issue with Sophie Cunningham's response. At all. The Storm apologized to conduct cohort towards Jurgen girls supporting Sophie Cunningham. Those girls knew what they were doing in the anti-environment. I mean, yeah, they did. Like, well, they probably did. I'm not going to say that for sure. They probably did. That being said, I'm sorry. Like, if you disagree on a topic with somebody, you don't get the right to assault them.
Sophie Cunningham has now stepped directly into the center of the fallout. Her response was not a technical debate about hormone policies, competitive statistics, or eligibility rules. Instead, she focused on something much more basic. She criticized the behavior that was reportedly linked to a member of the Seattle Storm ownership group, praised the young fans for standing up for what they believed, and reminded people that kindness still matters. That difference is important because Sophie was not responding to the entire political debate, even though many people immediately tried to make her comments represent all of it. She was reacting to claims that the Storm later apologized after a young fan supporting her inside the arena was confronted, leaving one of the teenagers upset. You may dislike the message written on a sign. Sophie may disagree with your opinion. You may also disagree with the protesters outside the arena. None of those differences automatically give anyone the right to confront young fans and lecture them face to face. Later, we also need to look at the part of Sophie's response that could have lasting consequences because it may influence how Indiana views her future with the fever. Subscribe and become part of the fastest growing Wnba community on YouTube.
It's like, it is what it is. Like, Sophie Cunningham, I truly believe a safe space and love for everyone, biological girls, biological boys, trans women, trans men, everyone's welcome at my table. You can disagree and still be kind, bravo, those girls stand up for what they believe, you'll be hearing from me soon, yay for the gifts. Truly embarrassing to co-owners, types of leader she is. At the end of the day, I think it's like the wife of a co-owner.
That has become one of the defining parts of Sophie's public image. She says everyone deserves a place at her table and should be treated with respect, while also making it clear that she supports safety and opportunities for biological females in women's sports. Some people believe those two views can exist together. Others argue they are deeply connected to the broader impact of policies they see as discriminatory. That disagreement is real, and one Instagram post is not going to settle it. Still, pay close attention to what Sophie did not do. She never encouraged anyone to harass others. She did not tell fans to confront people with opposing views. She did not celebrate anyone being mocked or embarrassed. Instead, she thanked the young supporters, welcomed them, and criticized the behavior they said they experienced. That is exactly why the reaction became so intense. It made it much harder for critics to separate Sophie from the story. Before this, some people could argue that outside groups had simply used her previous comments to support their own campaign. But once Sophie publicly thanked the supporters, she accepted a direct connection to the event, even though she did not organize the protest and reportedly knew nothing about it beforehand. That represents a much greater level of responsibility than simply making a statement. She is no longer viewed only as the athlete whose earlier comments inspired a movement. She has now openly stood behind the people who attended.
If you disagree on a topic with somebody, you don't get the right to assault them. You don't get the right to walk up to somebody and curse them out in a private space. You don't, like, you can kick, I think you might be able to kick them out for any reason. But if we're being real here, Sophie was asked a question, she answered it. And
this is where the strongest argument begins. Sophie was asked a question about women's sports, and she answered it. People are free to disagree with her response, challenge the evidence behind it, or argue that her position is harmful to transgender athletes. Speaking publicly does not protect anyone from public criticism. But criticism also has limits. According to the young fans, the incident was not the result of a formal complaint, a public statement, or a thoughtful response. They claimed that an older woman confronted them inside the arena, questioned why they were there, and spoke to them using personal, religiously charged language. Reports also say that one of the girls was 16 years old. Those details come from the supporters' account and later reports about the Storm's apology. They should be treated as allegations rather than established facts. Even so, the situation became much more significant once the organization chose to apologize. An apology suggests the Storm believed something happened that failed to meet the standards expected of those representing the franchise. It is also impossible to ignore the imbalance of authority when ownership is involved. An owner and a fan do not enter an arena with the same level of influence. One person has simply purchased a ticket, while the other is connected to the organization responsible for the venue, the staff, security, and the entire game day experience. That difference in authority changes the nature of the interaction, even if no physical contact takes place. Teenagers cannot know whether an owner has the power to remove them, whether security will side with the owner, or whether responding could make the situation worse. That is exactly why people in positions of authority are expected to show restraint.
Real here. We gotta be real, and unfortunately, playing competitive sports at the highest level is not a human right either. But yeah, like obviously, look, Sophie's responding. I don't think anyone has any reason to believe that she's anything other than an extremely lovely human being.
Now we reach the point that many people continue to avoid. Competing in professional sports at the highest level is not a basic human right. Every major level of competition has eligibility standards. There are age divisions. There are weight classes. There are rules about banned substances. Some tournaments also require athletes to meet nationality requirements. Sports organizations regularly decide who is eligible to compete, under what conditions, and according to which standards. The difficult question is not whether leagues can create rules. Of course they can. The real debate is how those rules should balance sex, gender identity, medical transition, fairness, inclusion, safety, and the current scientific evidence. Neither side can settle that issue with simple slogans. It requires sport-specific research, transparent standards, medical expertise, legal analysis, and honest conversations about the trade-offs involved. Basketball is different from swimming. Track is different from combat sports. Professional competition is not the same as youth sports. Applying one universal rule across every sport without careful consideration will only create new problems. Sophie has expressed a broad position. Her critics are justified in asking for more details. What specific principles guide her view? Does she apply the same standards to every age group? Does she separate elite competition from recreational sports? What kind of evidence would cause her to rethink her position? Those are reasonable questions. However, the discussion falls apart when it turns into a judgment of someone's character. Believing a policy is wrong does not automatically make someone cruel in every part of life. In the same way, a person can speak often about inclusion while still treating someone standing in front of them disrespectfully. That contradiction is why this story resonated with so many people. Those who publicly promote safety and kindness are also judged by how consistently they demonstrate those values when they come face to face with two young people they strongly disagree with.
And even if you disagree with Sophie Cunningham's take on this, I really don't see how there is evidence. Like, people disagree with her apparently not even politics. Like, apparently she's not even MAGA, which is hilarious. Apparently there are legitimately MAGA players in the league. From what I've heard, Sophie's not one of them. Which is the funniest part about all of this. The funniest part about all this is apparently Sophie's not.
There has also been a rush to place Sophie into a complete political category based on a single issue. That kind of analysis is usually far too simplistic. People are more complex than political labels. A player may disagree with conservatives on many issues while agreeing with them on sports eligibility. She may support transgender individuals socially, while also believing that professional competition should include sex-based eligibility limits. Whether those positions are consistent is open to debate, but they are certainly not unusual. Trying to place Sophie inside one political movement does very little to explain what she actually believes, even if it makes arguments on social media easier. Sophie herself would have to explain her own views. More importantly, giving her a political label can quickly become a way for people to decide how she deserves to be treated. Once someone is viewed as an enemy, almost any action taken against that person or their supporters can begin to feel justified. That is where the situation becomes dangerous. The supporters are no longer seen as fans but as provocateurs, making their treatment seem less important. The calls to remove Sophie also become easier because she is viewed as a symbol instead of a teammate. Alleged misconduct is minimized when the owner is seen as supporting the right cause. Eventually, every individual disappears behind a label. That is exactly why consistent standards matter. If confronting teenagers is wrong when they support your position, then it must also be wrong when they support the opposite side. If spitting on a fan is unacceptable when your own group is targeted, then it remains unacceptable when the fan is cheering for a player you dislike. Principles only have real value when they are applied equally to people you disagree with.